Bisping, who can Jake Paul beat?
No man alive born of a woman.
Michael Bisping and his sheer obsession with Jake Paul, why he can't stop mentioning him, but at the same time saying he does not care about him in this video. Hello and welcome to Bloodsport MMA.
Assalamu alaikum.
Michael Bisping is a guy that I always liked, but at the same time, for certain reason, disliked. I don't know if you can follow me there. I have the same problem with DC sometimes, but especially with Bisping. I love Bisping. I listen to the Believe in Me podcast all the time. I watch every single YouTube video of him. But I find myself disagreeing with so many things he says. I see so many hypocritical things that he says, and it gets on my nerves, but at the same time, I like him, so I keep watching his stuff, and I think his videos are good, but it's just so much hypocritical stuff and so much nonsense oftentimes, and Jake Paul is one of those topics, because I get
He hasn't.
that Bisping does not like Jake Paul. And that's fair, that's totally okay. I understand that he as a fighter does not appreciate a Disney kid coming into the boxing world and claiming to be a boxer and fighting older guys. But we have to give Jake Paul the respect. Did I hate him in the beginning? Yes, because he just beat up our MMA legends. That's why we don't necessarily like him as MMA fans. But we have to be honest here, Jake Paul at the end of the day is a good boxer, especially looking at the circumstances where he started and when he started. And he chooses to do that life, to be a boxer. So why not just let him do whatever he wants to do? All his opponents agree to fight him. And it's not like he's fighting, well, the Mike Tyson one was out of his mind, I agree with that one. But otherwise, I mean, Tyron Woodley was like 39 or something and a freaking lifelong martial artist. I thought Woodley will murder him. You know what I mean? So we have to give Jake Paul at least a little bit of respect. You don't have to like him, but you have to at least respect that he himself chooses to stay in that boxing game and gets those guys paid as well. You know what I mean? Tyron Woodley would have never gotten the $2 million back if he would have not faced Jake Paul. But back to the Bisping topic. Bisping always hated on Jake Paul, which, as I said, at the end of the day, it's fair game. I also hate on certain people, but then you can't say
you cannot say salam alaikum and congrats about whiskey.
Like every instance Bisping gets to mention Jake Paul, he mentions him. He mentions him in every single video. He does a video about Max Holloway against Poirier or something and mentions Jake Paul twice. Like out of nowhere. But then in the same breath, he says, I don't care about Jake Paul, I don't want to give him any attention, no one cares about him, blah blah blah, this and that, he's not worth me mentioning him. But bro, why you keep mentioning him? If you don't care about him, then why do you keep mentioning him? Because you always say you don't care about him, but you definitely do.
Who cares? I don't care. Why do you care?
You prove every time again that you care a lot about Jake Paul, that Jake Paul lives in your head rent-free. Because bro, every single video I watched of you, or every second video I watched of you, you mention Jake Paul at least once. Every Believe Me podcast, Jake Paul has to be mentioned. And you have to mention that he's a dildo or whatever you like to call him. I'm like, bro, just leave him alone. I remember you had that history where Jake Paul called you out and stuff like that. I understand it that in this time frame you talk a lot of stuff about him because you are both shooting shots at each other. But Jake Paul hasn't mentioned you in ages and you keep trying to mention him, not to stay relevant obviously, but to, I don't know, you're just obsessed with him in a way. You don't want to agree on this, you don't want to realize this, but you are in a way obsessed with him. He lives in your head rent-free because you can't stop mentioning him. I remember very well that he wanted him to fight Anderson Silva. He was like, he's talking Anderson Silva, he doesn't want to fight Anderson Silva because Anderson Silva is actually a real striker. Then he fights Anderson Silva and again, oh, he only fights the old guys. He predicted Anderson Silva will beat him, but then again afterwards came out with, oh yeah, of course he beats Anderson Silva, he beats the old guys, blah blah blah, there's nothing impressive about that, this and that. Then he says he needs to fight boxers. Why does he fight older MMA fighters? He should fight boxers like other boxers do. If you want, in his words, if you want to be a boxer, do the boxer route. Take the boxer route and fight real boxers and make a name for yourself to prove that you're really about the sport, right? What does Jake Paul do? He does exactly what every single boxer does and goes and fights real boxers that are official boxers but that are not crazy, that do not have the craziest records. I don't like that, but that's the completely normal process for boxers. That's what boxers do. If before you have like 15 fights or something, your first 10 to 15 fights are mostly cans and you start to slowly build up. So Jake Paul goes out, starts to fight mid-ass boxers, knocks them all out, and Bisping has something to be angry about again. He complains again about, oh, he's beating Uber drivers. Bro, he does exactly what you want him to do, but then when he does it, you still have something to say about him. And he doesn't even mention you. You're an MMA guy. You should not even be talking about Jake Paul. I never do videos about Jake Paul because he's not in my hemisphere. He's not in the sport that I cover, that I talk about. You barely ever talk about boxing, but you always talk about Jake Paul. And I understand it from the MMA perspective that he's pissed that he knocks out our guys. I also always root for the MMA guys, obviously. But at the same time, like, bro, why do you care? Let him do his thing. Those people that he fights, they agree to fight him and they get paid handsomely. So just mind your business. Stop mentioning Jake Paul in every breath and every video you make. We do not want to hear it anymore, Bisping. Please stop being so obsessed with Jake Paul, brother. Please. This is my opinion on this whole Bisping Jake Paul thing. What do you think about that? Did you also realize that? Did you also see that he just keeps mentioning him? Write your opinions in the comments, you guys. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, would appreciate that a lot. Check out my merch, bloodshop.net. Best MMA merch in the business, worldwide free shipping. If you enter code free at checkout, check it out, link in bio. Stay bloody, you guys, and until the next one, bye-bye. Bloodsport out.